Now to South Korea, where police have raided the offices of Jeju Air and the operator of Muan International Airport as part of the investigation into Sunday's fatal plane crash. The airline's chief executive has also been banned from leaving the country. The landing gear of the Boeing 737 plane malfunctioned during an emergency landing, causing it to skid on the runway and crash into a barrier before bursting into flames. Only 2 of the 181 people on board survived. Investigators are still scouring the site of the wreckage for any indication of the cause of the crash. Well, journalist Jen Moon joins us on the line from the crash site in Muan. Welcome, Jen. What were police looking for, and what did they find during their raids on Jeju Air and Muan Airport's operator?
So, police on this Thursday is conducting search and seizure operations in relation to Sunday's plane accident at 3 different locations today. Here at Muan International Airport, the Jeju Air office in the capital Seoul, and the regional aviation office. Officials here told me that the search warrant was issued over charges of professional negligence resulting in death. Today, police were seen combing through the remains of the crashed aircraft at the airport here today. They're also trying to secure evidence related to the legitimacy of the airport's localizer, a concrete wall housing an antenna array located near the runway at the time of the crash, and they have secured the communication record between the control tower and the pilot shortly before the crash. Now, investigators also plan to seize documents and materials related to the operation and maintenance of the aircraft, as well as the operation of airport facilities.
Right. And is that usual, a raid on the site rather than working in cooperation with the companies involved?
Absolutely not. This isn't the usual case at all. And of course, but considering the unusualness and the and really highly unlikeliness of such an aviation disaster here in South Korea, this is only due diligence, is what the public is saying about this raid.
And what should we read into the fact that Jeju Air's chief executive has been banned from leaving the country?
Well, it's hard to say anything at this point, but the police did explain that although the Jeju Air CEO Kim Bae and another high-ranking official of the budget airliner haven't been charged, they imposed the ban because the 2 Jeju Air officials can prove to be main witnesses or testifiers to the accident at minimum. Jeju Air spokesperson said the company was assessing the situation, but they are reducing flight operations as early as next week in response to the growing concerns over safety flights operated by this carrier.
And no indication at this stage as to what likely caused this?
Well, inspectors have retrieved both black boxes from the charred remains of the aircraft, and earlier this Thursday evening, they completed decoding data from the cockpit voice recorder. They had previously said that they were aiming to finish that procedure by tomorrow, so we are a bit of a schedule on that front. The complete audio file from the cockpit voice recorder includes all communication from the final 2 hours of that Jeju Air flight last Sunday. Everything ranging from a communication between the control tower and the pilots, dialogue between flight crew, and to the slightest noise in the cockpit, alert warnings and sounds of switches being turned on and off. So it is expected to be a huge help in finding out what has transpired in the final moments.
And we know that some of the victims' family members have visited the crash site in Muan. Tell us more about how people in South Korea are reacting to this disaster.
Right. At Muan Airport, I can describe to you today, soldiers, police, and white-suited investigators were combing through the crash site, and some orange-robed monks held prayer ceremonies nearby. There were relatives there as well, leaving flowers and food near the crash site today. But hundreds of people, other people in Korea, waited patiently to pay their respects at nearby memorials set up to honor the victims, forming a queue that stretched for several hundreds of meters. People nationwide are remotely prepaying for coffee at the airport's cafes so that victims' families who've been camping out there since Sunday, waiting for news, could drink for free as well.
Okay, thanks for taking us through that, Jen. Journalist Jen Moon in Muan.